and welcome to episode 414 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the web series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And Long Distance Clara. No, it's not a character from the classic Pigeon Street. It's actually Tony Esmond.
Who's Long Distance Clara? Is that a thing?
Yes.
She's a lorry driver, isn't she?
She's a lorry driver, Long Distance Clara.
Is she sexy?
Well, as much as he can be in Pigeon Street.
In Pigeon Street, yeah. Who was the sexiest person in Pigeon Street? Google it, everyone, and
please let us know. Yeah, you sound better. You sound better this week, by the way.
I'm feeling. You can probably still hear it in my voice, but I don't sound so.
You got a pube stuck down the back, yeah?
Yeah. I find that it helps, like, give me a gravelly voice.
Phone me later, yeah? Well, I'm in a hotel room. I need to get sleep.
Yeah, but I can breathe a little better and breathe in the wonderful smell of comics. And who doesn't love comics? And that's
and
why
I just told another off-colour joke, didn't I?
You did. And
that's become a tradition before we get started, isn't it?
And most importantly, it was off-air. Which means
I don't think we could ever do a compilation of those jokes.
No.
One about car parks that Dan told. Not great.
That's pretty bad.
What we can do, though, gents, is we can talk about comics every week. And welcome to the show. And this, for the next hour and a half, it's the three amigos just here to entertain you. Talk about some certain subjects. Look back on this year so far, 2023.
Halfway, innit?
Halfway, almost. Pretty much, but it feels like a hell of a lot is seemingly gone down or happening, and we're not quite sure where we are in the world. But maybe that's just the Beecham's talking. And we've got a couple of questions.
Stephanie's.
We got a couple of questions to talk about.
She's deaf in one ear. Did you know that? That's Stephanie Beecham. Google that is true.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh God! It's still caught in my throat, Tony. Anyway, but do you know
a ginger one if it's her?
Do you know what also catches me out?
Comic House.
Comic House, yes. Namely the sponsorship ad, because I always try and figure out how to do the sponsorship ad. But 3 seconds before we actually do it. But they are. They are.
Oh yeah, we've got to do an advert. Oh,
yeah. They are. They are our sponsors, and Pete and the guys from Comic House are amazing people who love indie comics as much as we do.
Yes.
And therefore it is indie comic marketplace. So if you have books, put them on there. There's a huge selection of titles already on there. If you self-publish, it's another avenue to get your work out into the world. But more importantly, if you've got digital copies of your comics, and digital is seemingly everywhere at the moment, there's lots of things.
So people do listen to this and then go and put their books on there. That's what I like about it.
Yes,
we are helping the world of Comic House, aren't we? I'd like to say that.
Yeah,
I'm going to pop
getting paid £1,000 a week for doing this.
I'm definitely be popping Viper Crimson Dawn on there.
Put it on there.
See, if it's on there,
if I'm away like I am at the moment in a hotel, I'll have a little look at that again. That's a good thing about having it on the reading app, isn't it? You know?
And all to take part in it, you just basically like Netflix for comics, just a subscription service.
It's back in.
£3 a month. £3 a month.
We were freestyling for a while there, Dan.
Which is
back in.
Back on script.
Yeah. I just roll with the punches, baby. And
we've done a Comic House and Chill joke before, haven't we? I can't remember how it played out, but we definitely that's a box.
Were we all together when we did it?
Might have been.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And the joke.
Oh Jesus! We're recording this episode early, guys. So
that is the thing. We are early, aren't we? Because I haven't been to Glasgow Comic Convention yet. Which is why I'm in Glasgow. Or they did get CP
as we speak now. That's just happened. We hope you had a lovely time.
Yeah.
There. Not you, Tony. Well, we hope you had a lovely time.
Nobody cares about me, do they?
We all care about you.
Well, I looked at that.
Apart from if they need me to review their comics.
That bloody schedule you got to navigate on the day at Comic Con. I just hope you get it all packed in.
Yeah.
Packed schedule.
Do you know what else is packed? The Comic House.
My pants.
As well as that, front and back.
That was an accident.
The Comic House Library of Digital Indie Comics, which is growing all the time. All the time. So to find out more, and please God, ignore all of this. It's a genuinely great place to check out.
It is very good.
So to find out,
far better than we are.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
they deserve better than this. That's all we can say.
Like people
I
have
hear
done
that a
reviews
lot.
on comics on the Comic House. We've done a couple of reviews ourselves, and
Yeah. Some of our past guests, we've
Comics
discovered
on
on
there.
Comic House. So there you go.
Yeah.
So to start a 14-day free trial and discover more of what we're talking about, go to comichouse.com. And as always, to the Comic House guys, we're so sorry. These are literally the worst sponsorship ads, I think.
I can't listen to this if I ever listen
in
back
the
to the
podcast
episode.
realm.
So
just get
embarrassing.
like crippling second-hand embarrassment from re-listening to the advert.
Oh, big shout out to last week's boss of the week, Craig Shields. He's updated the site, so you can go on there and find
that's fantastic.
last week's recommends as well.
Yes.
Stuff.
What an absolute legend. Thank you very much, Craig.
Don't forget to pre-order Christian Walgus' new book.
Yes.
Get out there and do it.
Yep.
Yeah, The Hunger and the Dusk issue
We
1.
were shouting about that this week, and
We were.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And we do it because we love.
I sent him my banana comic. He liked it.
Well, who wouldn't?
Exactly.
It's very appealing.
Yes.
When Christian told us that skull story, I kind of like that was kind of
Better reaction, please. Next one.
that skull story of Christian's was kind of took me back a bit. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't expect this story to go like that, but it did. You have to listen
where
back
he was
to
boiling a skull and all that. Yeah. I was around his house when he was doing that. Yeah.
boiling the skull.
Well, he was sort of getting it ready.
Is that euphemism?
Yeah. I'm going to boil my skull all over my
See, if I
hotel
went
room.
round my mate's house and he said, "Do you want a cup of tea, Dan?" And I was like,
Do you want some pasta? What's been in that pan?
Someone's been boiling a skull in here.
Oh, no, it was a wok. I used to wok.
I'll be like,
Fucking hell,
"What's
big
going on
was
over
the
there?
skull.
What's going on in that pan?" "I'm just boiling the skull." See, I've got to go, actually. You know, I've got something to do. Something in the car.
Oh dear. Amazing. It's gonna be a wild one this week, isn't it, gents? I love it when it's like this.
Talking to you and you're winding up the window. So yeah, I'm just boiling and put it on the wall. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Just finding my keys. Just putting my keys between the fingers of my fist.
Yeah.
Ready just in case.
Is there a key to this lock? Anyway,
Tony's taking his trousers off behind me. What are you doing, Tony? Nothing. I thought it was one of those things again. I thought it was happening again.
How do you think we got the skull? Right.
Oh, there's no saucepan big enough.
Chokehold.
So we're going to do handbrake turn into.
I don't know why I said that.
I don't know. Oh dear. But anyway, please stick with us because we're about to talk about some comics.
We are going to talk about comics.
Yeah.
And we've got some pointers for people attending conventions shortly as well.
Yes. So there may actually be some sensible chat. To anyone in
chat, I doubt it.
We're going to try. We're just having fun.
Did we get to Thought Bubble in 2021? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 2021.
Fucking hell,
We
God,
didn't do
that is-
2022, did we?
time-
We did
It's
time-
flown by, man.
Time is meaning. Yeah, time has flown by. It is already halfway through 2023.
We need to do another Mart soon, kids. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It feels
Do a
like
summertime Mart. How would that be?
That'd be hot.
Summertime
That'd be
Mart.
sweaty. That'd be pungent.
Mate, it's only fucking 1st of June and already the temperature's getting up there. Is it
I
going to be
tell you
like
what, it's
last
fucking
summer?
boiling in Glasgow walking around today.
Will you two stop whinging?
I've got the air conditioner. I've had to turn it off so we can record this.
Oh,
It's
right.
noise.
It's like being in the third world here.
So
we're going to talk
2023, right? The year so far, as we're talking now, there's some strange things going on with things like Diamond and or lots of strangeness going on right now. And it feels like, what? I can't believe we've gotten this far. So when I ask this, gents, I'm genuinely asking because my brain is blank.
Well,
it feels,
here's
so
one
much
of
has
the
happened,
things
but what's happened? What's happening?
Yeah, what's the current thing? I think one of the things that's worth talking about, and I know it's something that we have moaned on, and me and Dan played this game when we were in Gosh the other day, is the price of small press books. Now, everyone looks at us and think, oh, it's just three old blokes fucking moaning about the price of things again, which is, we could be in Lidl as well as in a comic shop. Yeah, that's fair. But David Ziggy Green, who runs the alternative bookshop Jam in Hackney, which I ordered some books from last week.
Go check it out.
Go check it out. Go buy something. He was tweeting the other day, and I make him right on it. And he was saying, "What is it with small press pricing at the moment?" He says, "Do you not want to sell your books?"
Mm.
Yeah.
He says he looks at stuff that should be £3 or £4, and it's like £10 or £12, and that's exactly what we found, and we've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think it's being evidenced now by someone who runs a shop, who says you can't sell it at that price.
Yeah.
Nobody will buy it at that price. You're taking the piss, and it's overpriced for what it is.
What kind of got me is there were some responses saying, "Look, we've got bills, we've got this and that." It's like, if your only source of income is that fucking book, you got bigger worries.
You're a fool. Yeah. And the thing is, like, we around this table, we all know how much it costs to print a book, and it don't cost that.
Like I did the Viper. What was that? 60-odd pages, full color, on like glossy paper, and it's coming in at like I sell at £8, and there's books in there for like A4, photocopied and stapled, and they're selling for 10, 15.
Yeah.
So don't fucking tell me about prices and shit like that. No one will buy that. You're pricing yourself out of the market.
Yeah. And I won't say who it was, but I was in a comic shop a few months ago, and I took something to the counter, and the very nice person behind the counter, we all know, went, "Have you looked at the price on that, Tone?" I went, "Oh yeah, I'll put that back."
Yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah, so I would have bought it if it was a reasonable price, and I'd be talking about it on here.
Like a fanzine kind of thing. You're kind of doing this thing for the love of, like, you're banging out this kind of copy you're going to put on photocopy paper because you want people to kind of have a read and have a laugh, or whatever you're putting out there in this scene, as opposed to thinking, "I'm going to make a few quid on this," which perhaps I'm thinking the wrong mindset there.
Well, I think the market cost has got to be what will be the decider and what will sell it.
Yeah,
I mean, we've just done a Kickstarter which was purely based, no extras, no frills, no original art, nothing like that, just purely on the price of the book. And if we'd have put it up, 2 or 3 people would have gone, "What? How much?"
Yeah,
So you have to make these things viable to be bought.
Yeah. What we've done.
I am not a charity to spend an extra fucking £6 above and beyond what it should be to buy your book.
Okay,
yeah.
I've been involved in Kickstarters. We've worked out the base cost of what we need to fulfill the order. So say £400, and then anything over the £400, because that's everyone's got their book, is a profit. So you kind of look at it like that. So if it breaks £400, the campaign succeeds, the book's printed, but you don't get any money out of it. But at least you kind of, that's out there in the world. But the books, you can cost it of how much your customer's willing to pay. If you're going to charge £20 for your book and they pay that, that's like one thing. But if you've got the guy in the shop saying, "Look, you're fucking overpricing this, people aren't buying it, or I'm going to buy it," surely you got to sort of take heed of that and think, "Well, maybe I am going a bit too much on that."
I mean, apart from a very small handful of people in the small press, who could you say is out there that could pay the mortgage off selling small press books? It's very few.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of people who are fortunate enough to be able to, get a full-time gig doing comics and stuff, it's, they're usually working with someone. This isn't someone who's probably got boxes, filling up their garage or something like that. There's usually they're with a publisher, or they've got a book, they've got these book deals or things,
Yeah.
It's not, some of those stapled books, the photocopied and stapled books that we see, which obviously have huge value and merit, but the pricing, I think you're right. There's 95%, of small press UK indie creators. They can't.
You can't support yourself.
You can't support yourself. Yeah. To a genuine, comfortable living. Shall I say?
Yeah. You could go to like every single con up and down the land and sell every book, and I doubt if you'd be able to make a living off that, because the amount it costs to do a con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most of the time, people have got to make these books because they love it, because they believe in it, because they just want to do it. And sometimes it's just because you get a lucky, you do it because you love it, and then you get a lucky break, and who knows, a publisher sees you and then wants to do a graphic novel. That's way down the line. You should always do it because you love doing it, and
that's the only reason I do it, man.
Yeah, that's the only reason I do it.
I don't make any money from comics. I make a loss from comics because I want the money to go to the Falpy or 4P or Cliff or the guys who work in Hickson, or the people who are doing on that. I don't get any money from the current one because I'm just a writer. I do it for a laugh. It's my hobby. I love it.
Yeah, I've no interest in doing comics full time. I don't see it as a career path for me at all.
No, me neither, man.
I do it for fun.
But
I want to actually be able to pay my mortgage.
Yeah. But sort of plays that play the devil's advocate and like step into the grey area. You know, for those people who, you know, there's a lot of costs obviously with the printing or paying artists. You know, lots of different variables. So when we see that final price at the end, and certainly we know a lot of creators, a lot of them friends of the show and stuff, who are making those expenditures. They are paying the artists, or you know, they are paying the printers, and yet when you see that Kickstarter, they are not charging an arm and a leg for a comic.
Yeah.
How is that different? Do you know what I mean? To just a solo, just like a solo person who doesn't have any outgoings, who's charging double that. You know, because we all understand. Obviously, there's a certain amount of like, okay, you've paid several £100s to get these printed. I always, you know, when it comes to my stuff, when I print stuff in the past, like, as long as I get the printing money back.
Exactly.
That's what I made. That's what I made.
Yeah, like Black or something like
no,
that.
you're not running at a loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was reading a thread because I'm part of some of those indie groups on Facebook, and like the guy was saying, how am I going to do this comic book? Because like it's going to cost me about $5-6 grand, and it's like, mate, if your first comic book's costing you that much money, don't fucking do it. Just reconsider what you're doing, because I don't know where that
expecting to lose some money.
Yeah, God, like you're going right up in the high end there. That's really like, and your first book you're ever thinking about making, and you're thinking, I don't know where to cut back on. That's a lot of money you're dropping down for someone.
I mean, devil's advocate here. There is the argument, and I think occasionally I do agree with him. There's no price you can put on art. You know, and if you know that word, that highfalutin word, art. But then again, comics kind of lays in a bit of a different area for that, doesn't it? It should be a disposable medium. Sometimes it isn't.
But it's emigrated into the bookshop arena now, which is a different thing, isn't it? Even the indie bookshops or your Waterstones,
it's got to compete. It's got to compete. You know.
Yeah. So they're also sort of competing with those prices and those looks. You know, so the finishes have to be better, or it's, you know, there's all, and obviously with the evolution of printers and things have gotten better, and certainly we all want to get what we justly deserve for the work that we put into these things, and hopefully people like it. I think that's part of the reason we do it, so that we entertain people, so we give something.
I think there's a relationship damage that can be done here, that if someone goes in a comic shop and looks on the small press shelves and everything is massively expensive, they're going to expect everything else to be massively expensive. Because the reputational damage can be done by just taking the piss.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, this is a question I just thought of as we were talking. Okay. It perfectly piggybacks off that. With that in mind, do you think the sort of pricing structure, or the sort of the day-to-day small press and independent experience within comic shops, within indie bookshops, is affecting people to migrate to webcomics?
And manga, I think.
And manga.
Yeah.
I got a tour around. Pete Watson and Dave Steele, I met in FP today in Glasgow. And I don't know if you've been in the Glasgow FP. It's fucking amazing. Really is good.
No, I've never been up there.
Bits designed by Frank Quietly and all this sort of thing. But what they've got is they've got a whole section. It's like a different room, which is just manga.
Yeah.
And he was saying we got a deal 3 for the price of 2. And I think that's quite a regular deal there.
Yeah.
So that's going to be 3 trades essentially for 20 quid or something, isn't it? You know, it's going to be that.
Speaking of manga, listen to the latest Never Write Anything.
Yes.
Thank you, mate.
Tony and Tom. I listened to that today. It's fantastic.
Really
thanks,
good.
babes. Yeah, we got quite excited on that one. Yeah.
I was kind of like, when I was listening to it, I was like, now I've got to fucking buy this.
Good. I hope you enjoy it, man.
Yeah, every time I'm like, I've got to buy this.
But also, I think there's something about, I mean, the manga revolution that we're seeing. There's a real excitement and enthusiasm, like you say. I've got to buy this, and just say you go into a bookstore that's doing 3 for 2, because they, you know, all those books.
And it's like when we go to conventions and we discover like Europe. What's the not Europe Comics? Who's the guys we're friendly with? We know the translator from.
Oh God, yeah, shit.
Or Humanoids or something like that, for example. They're doing the Cinebook. I'm thinking of. They do a 3 for 2 on that, and we get all excited at conventions, don't we? All fucking
yeah. I think maybe, do you think there's a bit of the kind of the ego involved when you're charging £15 for an A4 folded bit of? Do you think, like,
well, I'm just desperate to get in the comics journal, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know,
I think over this may be a cold, harsh truth, but I think over the last 10 years, especially in the independent comics field and small press field, maybe more towards the small press field. Web comics and manga have, it sounds cold to say it, have taken away from it, have taken the audience away from it. And that's not to speak of the quality of the small press books. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and I would say, obviously, we're talking ever more frequently about the manga revolution, but before that, certainly web comics, wasn't it? The web comic boom before that. So you already had a market of people that got into that. They left the traditional printed medium, got into their web comics, and there's probably a group of people that do this. And with the web comics, and of course, there's a lot of manga inspired books there. So when they decide, I want to get back into buying some printed books, they're probably gonna look.
You don't underestimate the effect that COVID had on the comics industry. So while we had, we had that, what was it, 3 months where we didn't know whether comics were coming back at one point, and we had that sort of thing. People could go and buy cheaply and read online manga. And I think and because we had that nice, where everyone just fucking watched Netflix, didn't they? Everyone was watching all those animes that jumped onto Netflix, and that's what increased the manga thing. That's where it went. I think that's why it exploded. And I actually think, I was chatting about this today, I think we've got to stop thinking about it as an interloper. We've got to stop thinking about it as a taking over an invasive force. We've got to start learning from them and holding onto their tail and fucking follow them through the sales market. I think they've got it so right for the new kids out there. You look at all the American New Underground, it's all people who are influenced by manga. We've actually got to the point where it's becoming a generational thing now. I think Marvel have got to grab that, and they've got to fucking start doing something about it. Marvel and DC.
Don't think they got the chops. Marvel.
I don't think they. I think they're too stuck in their ways. They think they're not, but I think they're too stuck.
I mean, we'll probably see in 5 years maybe what will be heralded as a seismic change, because the publishing arm will completely change. They'll just, they'll just change up the management, or they'll just change things completely. That's the only way I can see it sort of changing. Who knows what will happen? I can't, and that's just me theorising. But here's a question I think a lot of creators sort of need to ask themselves, and this is from the Awesome Comics podcast, just asking you, if you're a creator putting out your books, especially putting out your books for sale. You could be a webcomic creator, whatever you're doing, we hope you're enjoying doing it, but also ask yourself, especially at this time when some things are uncertain, why are you doing this? That's a genuine question. That is a genuine, because comics is a wonderful community. You can make lifelong friends. You can meet creators that are lifelong friends. You could collaborate. You can do this. But are you in it for the long game? Because clubs and cliques and all of this only last so long. That's the truth of it. Look at it like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be doing this in 10 years?
Yeah.
Do you want to, and sometimes when it's conventions, and we've got groups of friends and have the great meetups, and there's the wonderful social times. But take all that out of it, take all the social stuff out of it. It's about the comics.
I think you're right, man. I think
why are you making the comics?
There's certainly people we see in certain cliques, I think it's maybe partly a London thing, who are in it because they think it's cool. There is definitely that. I think it's more of a zine fair kind of thing.
And I'll tell you what, it could be cool. It could be, it could be the coolest thing ever. But cool things pass. It'll be cool.
And you still have to be making it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You could be cool for 2, 3, 5 years, but eventually someone else is going to be cool. It's just like music. Do you know what I mean? You got to keep plugging away at it, haven't you?
How many people have we seen turn up, and we've had them on the show, like almost like burning red hot with enthusiasm for the medium.
Yeah.
And I look back and I look at some of those people and I think, where have you gone?
Yeah. Just disappeared.
We haven't heard from you. No, you just disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean,
sometimes life happens. Sometimes, especially with a small press and indie creator, life happens and things change. And like if your life is forced to go in a different direction, then do what's best for you.
I feel like sometimes people get into it. I think you might mention this before, that this is going to lead to this and this is going to lead to that, and then as is often with life, it doesn't, and you kind of just okay.
There's also this sort of no responsibility blame culture where we see people going, "Oh, if only they'd helped me, my comic would have made it," and stuff like that. No, that I really don't like that. I mean, we help as many people as we can, and it's not our responsibility that your comic failed. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, fuck really no.
I mean, let's put it like this, because what kind of creator are you when no one's talking about you?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you've probably, and this probably goes for all you lovely creators out there who have just started making comics. No one's talking about you right now, but you are making a comic right now because you fucking love it and you fucking believe in it.
Don't worry about people talking about you. When your comic comes out, if it's good, it's good. Don't worry about it. That's the only yardstick you need, is whether your comic's good. Not that it gets some fucking glowing review on some wanky website. Nobody cares, mate.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
I was creating comics before we started this podcast, and I do it for the love of doing it. Even if the podcast didn't start, I hadn't met you guys, I'd still be making comics just for whatever reason.
And when that comic comes, when that comic that you're making right now comes out, your first comic, it's not going to be the changing of the tide. There's going to be things you're going to be learning. There's going to be people like us sort of saying, we really enjoyed this, but maybe tweak this, take it, learn it. It won't be long before you're far better than me. So,
that's the old thing about improving, isn't it? That's what it's about.
It's getting knocked down 9 times, getting up 10. It's you just got to keep pushing forward and not. I mean, that's. I don't think if you kind of want to talk the talk in comics, like the craft, you can actually see it. And people who kind of are just all mouth and no trousers, they don't last because you can't fucking.
I've seen people go on every podcast, YouTube show, spend their life fucking palling up to people on social media, and they've actually convinced me that they must have a great comic, and I've looked at it and I've gone, what?
No,
but
you've read a comic and you just like, what? I don't get this. What's the thing about this?
And
there is no thing.
That's not to say, like, as well as like loving the medium, you've also got to, if you want your comics career, I'm using career in sort of quotes here, the hobby and stuff, in order for it to grow, you've also got to learn things like networking, working with printers, communication with publishers possibly in the future and stuff.
But the people have got to realise that networking is not just going online and gossiping. That's almost the opposite of networking as far as I'm concerned.
And also sometimes I think networking is doing the opposite. I mean, I always think some of the best things you do is just talk about the things you love.
That
just sort of be. This is great.
Pete Dory's got the right idea. Pete's great for that. People go on and go, oh, look at this. This is great, and sort of thing. And people love Pete because of that. I think that's what you got to do. You got to do it with positivity. Go and buy Stan and Jack.
I was shitting over Jurassic Park 2 the other night, and people were getting on board with that. But
only so far, Dan.
In the world of global politics, I think you can find there, Dan. It's not exactly a diatribe against Zelensky, is it?
And I did, we did have a little bit of a discussion about it, didn't we, Dan? I didn't agree with you wholeheartedly there, but we talked about it.
We managed to find a middle ground.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. As soon as they go to New York, it's dog shit. Anyway.
you dinosaur Nazis.
Dino Nazis.
Dino Nazis. Copyright.
No, my thing was Jurassic Park 3 is better than Jurassic Park 2.
Oh God! Just because it gave us the Ellen scene, which is the greatest scene in the history of cinema.
Is Jurassic Park 3 like the one with the pterodactyl and all that?
Yeah. My wife went to see that, and there's a bit at the end where like a huge great big light comes on, and all the characters turned around, and she's in the cinema watching, and some young kid went, "It's God." In front of the cinema light. That'd have been a turn up, wouldn't it? God, turned up the end of Jurassic Park.
Fucking hell.
I remember going to see cinema once and watching some kind of fucking movie. It was like one of those rip-offs of like Iron Eagle or something. It was called Iron Eagle 2 or some sort of shit. And there was this like fucking proper massive gung-ho bit. And I was sitting with my girlfriend at the time at the front of the cinema, and some Australian bloke just went quiet after this massive American gung-ho bit. And this Australian bloke behind me went, "What a load of wank." It's the only thing I remember about that film.
What?
Oh dear. Yeah, but I mean, we've just spent the last like 50 minutes doing a bit of a soapbox sort of diatribe ourselves about loving making comics. But I think going back to like what the year is showing us, I think this is just.
Can I just say before we move on? I don't want to be down on people making small press comics at all.
Yeah,
like,
not at all.
It's fucking great. Yeah, that's don't take
418 episodes to prove we're not, I suppose. Yeah. There's a few other things that came out this year that I thought were worthy of a conversation. So I think there's the issues with Diamond. So for those that don't know, Diamond UK and Diamond US, essentially, or whatever the worldwide, or whatever they're called over there, are two separate entities, although they do share certain characteristics and I'm guessing like in distribution and stuff. So in America, Marvel, DC, and now Image have left Diamond, so they're no longer being distributed by Diamond in the US. So Image have gone to something called Luna, which is the old DCBS. Those EOC listeners will remember they used to sponsor them. So they've gone there. So what that leaves Diamond with is, I'm guessing, Dark Horse, Valiant, Boom, Titan, none of the big hitters anymore. Now, which is not a problem in America because you have competing distributors over there for the comics. However, if this has any kind of effect on the UK distribution model, we only really, apart from some stuff done by Penguin Random House, we have mostly Diamond here.
Right, okay.
So they're the people who get Marvel and DC and Image and Boom and Dark Horse over from the States to us.
Yeah.
So if Diamond does, which I mean, it's losing ground fast in the States. If it does that and there is some kind of kickback to Diamond UK, we're fucked.
There's no comics basically coming over.
Yeah. Now, do you remember when there was that discussion during lockdown about how Diamond weren't going to distribute anymore, and there claimed to be these sort of couple of shops were going to get together, and those blokes couldn't run a bath.
Mate, that's a big fucking job. We're talking about international sort of shipping and distribution to various shops around the country.
Yeah.
That's
now think of that. So we've got that going on. We've got a kind of, it's not the first time in the history of comics where we've had more than one distributor. Don't get me wrong. And even in the UK, we kind of have bookshop distributors and different people do no-brow books, for example, So there is a diversification in a way there. However, you have got this sort of almost fracturing of the fairly long-standing distribution model in the UK and the US. Certainly in the US. So this is reflected in what I've started seeing in the app recently. I know we talked about it a bit on the Slack recently, is I now pay for the ultra level on DC, where you get DC books allegedly a month after they come out. It's a fucking terrible interface. They come out on the same day, right? Now, also notice that that's also started happening on the Marvel app. Now, the Marvel app is traditionally 3 months later.
Right.
But, for example, the Storm comic that came out last week came out at, I think I was reading it at like 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Now, the Storm comic wouldn't be in the shops until 10 a.m. that morning. And with the time difference in America, it wouldn't be on the shops in America till, I don't know, 3 p.m.? So I'm actually getting it 8 hours before the US is getting it because it just happened to have been posted onto the app.
Yeah.
So they're not really, I wonder if they're dipping their toe in
digital.
Yeah, in a totally digital world, which is working off a subscription in the same way like Netflix does, where they know what the pool of money is they've got each month. They know how much, who's reading it. It's a bit easier to judge how much they can pay writers and artists and how much they can chance on a book.
So what you say you did, they like Diamond say, right, we're not distributing to the UK and they can't sort out a method for doing so. What would you consider, like, you're not going to get floppies anymore for the traditional method? What do you consider, like getting, like, presumably a service would drop up to kind of say you can get them shipped over, but at a cost of premium. But what do you say? Like, yeah, you would carry on doing them.
I would just have to read them digitally and buy them in trade, I'm guessing, which would come through a book distribution.
Yeah,
as they do, when you get trades in shops.
Yes, yeah.
It's I don't know is the answer to that. I don't know how they would sort it out, and when you but the beyond just me worrying about myself, which was the most important person in the room, but you got how do comic shops survive? You got the couple of the London shops don't probably depend on their weekly warriors, as we've seen.
But what's a comic shop with no comics?
Yeah, what's a comic shop with no new comics in it? Which is why we got to learn off manga.
Yeah.
It's another example. But I just think it's strange in the last few months, because you remember a year ago, Perch, who is a comics retailer, predicted that comics would go day-date digital release.
Yeah, he did.
In May this year. Now, he ain't far off.
No.
It's not everything, but there's a few things that have gone day-date. And I'm not paying any extra money to the Marvel app or anything.
No.
There was 2 books this week. So last week there was 2 books that came out on the same day as they did in the shops, and there was about 4 books that were a week later than they were in the shops. So that's quite good.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the way they're going to start going,
yeah,
that's the way they're going to start going.
If it goes this way, and if the diamond stuff happens, I see the further evolution of what we now know as the comic book store evolving into a bookstore, which will collect nothing, which will have nothing but graphic novels. It's not going to have too many prose books, but that's pretty much what it's going to be. It'll be collections and stuff like that, because that's where the money will be.
There's a shop in Glasgow, about a couple of 100 yards from where I'm sitting in this hotel. There's a manga shop. So it's mostly manga in there, but it also does, the vinyl figures and the One Piece.
And that does on its own. Doesn't need anything.
It's not even. I didn't even know it was
the
there.
merch that also. We talk about the manga sort of books themselves, but the merch and the vinyl figures and everything that goes along with that, and some of it's lovely stuff as well.
Well, that's why we've got to tie into it, man. Because you look at something like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or something like that. They're a fucking machine. And whilst the Marvel have got the MCU, but then it's not reflecting back. But if you look at manga and anime, that it's hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's
weird because we've been over that before, but the kind of COVID was caused a lot of a hyper evolution in certain fields in comics. It seems to have been that. Do you know what I mean? It's pushed everything. Maybe that was coming years down the line to be a lot quicker. Like the digital stuff that's gone through the roof, and because it had to change.
Do you think it's partly because with these huge IPs, there are so many versions of it, there are so many different iterations of it? For instance, you've got the Avengers stuff, which is just for kids. You've got the kiddies stuff, and then you've got the comics, and then you've got the different animated series, which are always a different type of Avenger, and then you've got the movies, which is another different type. I know they call them universes, but fuck all that. But there's so many different versions of the same thing, which creates the problem of when it comes to the comics, it all has to be retconned to the same thing because nothing could ever change. Because then, but when it comes to for instance, these manga adaptations and stuff, normally they don't do lots of different things, do they? I'm saying this, I'm not completely.
There is some spin-offs, in that Demon Slayer. There's some different spin-off books and stuff about different
spin-off
characters.
Books,
generally,
but are they?
It's just the one. No, they don't.
There isn't a kids' version of Demon Slayer, for instance. There isn't a young same story.
Astro Boy's got an adult version of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is a
Dragon Ball Z is a bit Z or whatever you want to call it. It's a bit of a weird one because that started Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball Z, then Dragon Ball Super, and they're sort of evolutions of the story. But I couldn't speak too much about that. I don't know too much about Dragon Ball.
But it's nothing compared to DC and Marvel.
No,
by the time you reach issue 4, it's having a fucking crossover with the Green Lantern Corps. Saying, it's
then that gets retconned and it's all back to issue 1 and stuff. I don't know. It's kind of, you can't really go back and redo that from day dot because that's been the model, business and creative wise, for Western comics. I'm not too concerned. I think where we had the first initial kind of upsurge in manga, maybe in the 90s, you had there was a lot of what are those manga books that come out, the brands that were coming out. Tokyo Pop, stuff
Tokyo
like
Pop,
that.
yeah.
And a lot of
And
people
Viz was the other one. Viz Media did a lot, didn't they?
A lot of young creators like started making their own manga and books off that, and that's where I think like a lot of the webcomics that are coming out after that time is inspired by all that stuff. I think you look at a lot of the webcomics today; they're either being inspired by current manga or they're older artists that are inspired by previous.
I think people are
manga
learning from it. I was chatting to Eddie the other day, and Kancir turned up at. I've got a table now at. I've got a stall at MCM, and Kancir is Tezuka's company.
Right.
And that's slightly older school. I think they're seeing the Western market as massive now. I mean, we all know MCM's now pretty much 90% manga in it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's talking to fucking voiceover artists and stuff like that, and Gilbert Hernandez is sitting there on his own. What can you do?
What can you do? It's just the way of the world, man.
So the diamond issue.
Well, it's not an issue yet. It's a worry, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, do they make enough money out of the UK market in order to go it on their own if US well they kind of do go on there, but to survive on the UK market? And I wonder, and are Marvel making it easier for them to fail by putting everything as a day date on the apps?
Yeah,
because I might have bought that Storm comic,
because
I kind of like X-Men comics, and it's got an Alan Davis cover, but I didn't, because I managed to read it, 3 hours before the shops opened.
It's got that itch scratched.
But also the big companies they want to own their stuff now, don't they? So if they've got the ability to just put it out themselves, why would they
do that?
Why would they need anyone else? If they can cut out the costs that they're paying,
complicated model of like 45% to diamond, and this sort of thing.
It's interesting times. Yeah, so
I have to watch that one.
See what it's like at the end of the year.
The other thing I was hearing, I think Jason Wood was talking about it on EOC. Basically, he was talking that Netflix is drying up. So Netflix, which was seen as the great white whale for a lot of comic creators, and obviously Mark Miller is doing his business over there. But I think with them sort of reducing their output, and they're crashing a lot of series, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's now not an option for comic creators.
That's totally
looking less and less like it is.
That's totally fine for me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Got no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, same with a lot of the streaming services. I mean, Essex County's just come out. I don't know how that's doing. Mark Miller's got that new series coming in a couple of weeks, which looks pretty ace. There's a few things going on, but I don't think it's going to be going quite at the rate it has in the past.
Well, it's different, wasn't it? Kind of Mark Miller's got a bit of a different deal, but like there was like Mags Fasaggio did like that book deal for, what was that? It was like a space book, and like it was just the TV series was terrible. It didn't last.
It lasted like 8 episodes or something.
And just like knocked it on the head, and it's like a lot of people was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and then springboard off. And I've seen stuff on social media where like comic writers like, we're going to do this and then move on somewhere else. It's like, not sure about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I always see loads of screenwriters saying I was thinking about getting this adapted into the. Getting this adapted into a comic, it's like, oh mate, you got that ass about face.
Yeah.
No one wants to. No one wants to do that.
Don't lower yourself to us, mate. Just leave us alone. That's what I feel like saying to these people.
Yeah.
Just leave us alone for a while.
Do your thing. We need to kind of.
You've had us bent over now. Yeah, you've had us bent over now for about fucking 10 years. Just leave us alone, mate. Let's just get on with getting on.
I know we've said this many times over the months now, but I keep on saying to you, you said to me like, "Oh, is the craziness kind of dying down a bit? Are we kind of turning the corner on it?" And I did say a couple of weeks, I think it is, and I believe it is kind of starting to kind of peter out a bit, and just like that's not.
Well, I think, well, I write papers on this and all this sort of thing. I think discussion. People are now. It's not happening much, but there are signs that people are looking to get around tables and talk about it.
Yeah,
about the big subjects of the moment. The
people
subjects.
I don't want to hear like people just shouting and screaming, and people can't have an opinion because of what they believe or stuff. It's like you can't live in a world like that, man. And
no, the no debate discussion. Then saying no debate is the fucking worst thing. It's death.
Yeah, it's death. Yeah.
It's
like the only reason we got it is through fucking cooperation and getting on with each other. So the idea of this saying this is what's right and any other opinion is wrong and there's no debate.
Yeah,
it's going to end in fucking calamity.
I think, of course, the other sort of elephant in the room in regards to sort of comic promotion and all that sort of thing is a number of things. It's the fracturing of social media, where know people are leaving and going other places, and it's gone from being 2 places that everyone was on to being like 10 places
Yeah.
you might find someone. You know, you've got Mastodon and Truth and, you know, all different areas turning up. You know, people are leaving Twitter in droves, but also Twitter's algorithm isn't showing everything, so people can't get that message out. So I think that may affect small press in a way. I think,
I mean,
you know, it's a natural, you know, it's a natural advertising place, wasn't it, for us? Twitter,
that marketing idea of fan baiting is like, I hopefully that's kind of playing itself out now, because it seems to be, it was just cause as much upset and irritation to the fan base as possible, because if they're talking about it, it's getting in front of people, and it's just like it's really not worth it. It's not. It just turns people off. It makes people fucking. It's like a moment. It's like lighting yourself on fire to fucking feel warm. It lasts very briefly, and then suddenly your flesh is searing off your body. It's
doing a wee in your pants because it warms you up. Don't last long, does it?
No.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I've never done
that. Yeah, so hopefully they still do it like with film and TV programs and stuff, and it's like, oh man, there's people that are like, can we just have some good fucking stories, please?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit who's fucking in the film, or just gonna have some good stories, or in the comics even.
Yeah, definitely. Do we want to do the what were the other ones we had? We got should we do the comic convention one? That's a bit more upbeat.
Yes, yeah. I don't want us to be really down. I know that sometimes we've got a proclivity to kind of do that, but you know,
old blokes, aren't we? That's all we do.
Yeah.
That and stare at ladies.
Yeah.
So the question I was thinking about this week, and I was thinking, and this comes with different things being usable for, so different comic conventions offer different things to different people. So I think I sent you a message, didn't I, saying, this is how I see it, as you know, if you put them all up on a board, this is how I think they would be divided. So MCM is for sales, Thought Bubble is for networking. If you had to sort of pin it down to the primary function of each of these conventions, BAM is a community-based one. Nottingham is for families.
Yeah.
South London Comic and Zine Fair is for the London scene. You know, I think we now, if you were getting into this and you were thinking, what convention am I going to do? It's almost like you need to know what the nature of each one is.
Yes.
Because if you went to MCM thinking, I'll get to meet all the comic creators and we'll all go for a drink afterwards. No, you're in the wrong place, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's a self-promotional sales item, that one, I think.
Yep.
What do you think, guys? Is there any other ones you can think
I'd
of?
agree. Like, obviously there's more nuance in it, but if you're going to kind of like just give it that's for me as well. I think I'd rather be at an MCM where I'm just banging out. I want to get this comic into as many hands as possible. The sales, not too much. I'm not too bothered about it. But
the good thing about MCM is it's not the same crowd eating itself, is it?
Exactly.
What do you think about ones like, you know, South London Comic and Zine Fair? You know, all the zine fairs and stuff like that. What kind of market do you think that is?
See, I would go as a punter as to something like that. As kind of like but my comics wouldn't table there because it's not what the people want to see there.
Yeah, I think maybe some of our more oak tray fucking tribute stuff would.
The tribute stuff
maybe.
would.
But I don't think it's certainly not a big sales one.
No,
and there is a sort of a minor networking opportunity at something like that, like Safari, LCAF. I think LCAF sort of cuts across a couple of these things. So
okay.
Our sales were massive. We sold 3 or 4 times what we sold at Thought Bubble at LCAF. But it was our convention. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that also has like a community feel, and it has like a networking thing as well, because people from TCAF would turn up to have a wander around and stuff like that. You know, I kind of think if Fantagraphics was an English company and they had a convention, that's what it would be.
I reckon your sentiment, V. I think I would go back to Thought Bubble to be as a guest and to be a punter as opposed to table.
We were limited, although we had a table which people just turned up and had a laugh at. We were limited by being there, weren't we? We'd have been much better just fucking the 3 of us, rucksacks on our back, saying hello, speaking to everyone, and going and doing the tour, wouldn't we?
Yes, yeah, I agree.
I mean,
I love people coming over and saying hello, listeners, whoever.
But would it have been different if we didn't have a podcast? And we were there. We were there with the book. I mean, that's talking about something that
if we would have just been there on that table, we would have been fucking made even less sales. And
yeah, to be fair, we do sell a lot of books because we've got a podcast. I'll be honest with you, because we're not just because people hear about it, don't they? You know, the only conventions I did prior to the podcast is I did Bristol selling comics, and I did there was a London one, very brief, short-lived London one. Oh, and one in Brighton. And Bristol was a mixture of, you get John Romita Jr. and Paul Levitz wandering around, Joe Quesada, and then there'd be like a smattering. Ben, when we had Ben on the podcast, didn't we? We were sort of reminiscing about the days of Bristol. There'll be a smattering of small press, but there was no like real small press area or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, and we were on our feet selling. We did all right. Yeah, pretty good.
There's times I must have been in the same building as you, T.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Didn't realise it.
Yeah, we're definitely at that UCAC together, weren't we?
Yeah.
In the same audience. Yeah.
Looking at Stanley talk about Rampage, was it? Was the guy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember that. I remember him walking past me shaking his hand outside.
Oh, really? I never got to do that. I'd fucking.
I stuck my hand out and he sort of shook my head and said hello and walked on. And he was like big grins everywhere,
Yeah. Oh man, I
remember him saying to the audience, he said, "What's the scariest car on the road? It's a garbage lorry," and everyone going, "What?
What? Yeah. What?" I guess he would like, oh fucking hell, yeah, not that. You wouldn't really pay too much mind to it.
Yeah.
That was his thing, wasn't it? He was like the 2099. There was the heroes, and a lot of them were pre-established characters like Punisher, Spider-Man, Doom. Can't think of too many, but he was one.
Yeah.
He was one that was like made up, original. He was set in that universe, and he was knocking around in a bin van.
I'll tell you, I don't mind it. I read
I think there was more to it than that.
Yeah. It's better than fucking Hellcat. Oh, oops, sorry. So I think it's important. So if you were a new person on scene, and we get a few new people on scene. I think it was asking on the Slack, was it Sarah Webb?
Yeah, Sarah Webb
would be a good place to take a comic. And my easy option for Sarah is Nottingham.
Yeah, good shout.
I think that's a good one. Nice, friendly family event. Everyone's like,
I think it also depends on how far you've got to travel as well.
Yeah, that factors in.
Sometimes there's some great little events in your local area.
Mark Abbott was breaking down his finances just to go to Glasgow. Yeah, and he was saying, look, I'd have to sell this many, and you have to think about it that if you're traveling down from
Weymouth on the south coast and you're going up to Nottingham or Leeds or something like that, just do the math. Just do the math.
Man, fuck me, because I've never been to a con where I've made money.
Yeah.
We were spending at the pub after.
I'd recommend doing like a smaller con before you even think about doing an MCM, just to get your shit straight.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Best option, we'll give him a shout again, is somewhere like Hull Comic Con, where Mr. Hempel will give you a table for free.
Yeah.
If it's nice and close, go along, give it a go, see how you like it, see if it sells, see what you got to do. It's not a bad little practice.
It still fucks me off that I live in the southeast, the most densely populated part of the country, and there's no real big comic cons. The London's the nearest one, if you know what I mean. I guess they have some on the south coast, and I'm talking out my arse there.
You would think there'd be one in Croydon or somewhere, wouldn't you? Or Croydon or fucking Maidstone or something. There used to be a Maidstone one, didn't there? They used to have a shopping centre, Demon Con. Yeah, I went there a few times. That's all right. Yeah,
I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I remember doing the cursory looking into running a Comic Con, even if it was like for a haul. Yeah, so fucking this is a lot of work.
But that's us, man, and we bemoan about there not being one, but we should be putting our hand in our, up and saying let's organise one. Yeah, God bless them, the people who do it.
Man, once I'd started having a look into it and like just calling people up and just not getting any phone calls back or like quite curt emails back, and I was like, fuck it, this is a mission.
It's like when we did the 200th. I had to sort of put a substantial amount of money on the line in order to get that room upstairs. And they said, well, if they eat and drink this much amount, you won't have to pay us any money. And I'm like, fucking hell, come on. So I'm saying to everyone, mate, try and have your dinner here.
Mate, that was a great day.
Yeah, so I went down halfway through the day. I went and said, how are we doing around the money side of things? And she went, oh, you went over your limit fucking about an hour ago. I was like, oh, cool.
Brilliant.
Thanks, I could relax. Imagine doing that by 10 times, So that's how it would be. Yeah.
I got the house riding on this.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, the second half of the year is. Would you say it's a more convention-heavy side of the year from now on?
I kind of feel like we're in the middle of con season now. There's quite a few going on at the moment, aren't there? So we've just had Lawless, we've had MCM, we've got Glasgow today. There's another one going on this weekend. There's another one going on this weekend. There's one, the Sci-Fi London, isn't there? Yeah. Oh man, I've got to say this. Falpy's doing Sci-Fi London, and I think
tribute.
Yeah, and I think they might be getting him to do like a workshop for kids, and it's making me laugh every time I ring him. I said, "What are you just going to do? Draw genitals and everything?"
My God, has he ever done a kids' book?
No,
I can.
Oh, mummy, can I get? There's a nice man. Can we get some of his comics? Oh my God!
Look, mummy. Look, mummy. I drew someone spunking in someone's eye.
Yeah,
there's someone who's got a banana up their arse in this one.
Banana up the bum. Banana up the bum.
Yeah, so I think we're in it now. I think we're in it to win it, aren't we? I think it's back with a vengeance. I think at the moment. Remember when we just before lockdown we were saying there's a convention every weekend.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah. And there'll always be those. Take a picture with the toilet from Doctor Who, episode 76 or something like that.
Remember the fucking Walking Dead door?
Yeah. Yeah,
the
Walking Dead door, yeah,
with the chains on it and don't dare to open inside, and the Game of Thrones throne.
Yeah,
God, they seem like sweet childhood memories now.
Yeah, I still remember that bit where I tried to use the toilet at that last London Super Comic Con, and the bloke had all of his fucking cosplay armor laid out on the toilet floor, and I opened the door really hard and it just crunched into one of his fucking swords or something, and I could hear him going, "Oh no."
It's sad.
Mate, so nowhere better you can put that out, get all that stuff out.
Yeah, why are you lying it out in front of the urinals?
Yeah, it's a bit of a oh God, you're wearing that shit. We've got some some questions.
We got a couple of questions. Dan, have you got them lined up?
I do. Let me just scroll back up to the thing. So we got Simon Diggins at London Simples. Are there any small press or mainstream characters crossovers you would like to see? For instance, Dredd versus Batman again, or Thanos versus the Green Lanterns. Many thanks, Si. I've
got one which is more of a mainstream one. I would absolutely love this. I would love to see a team up between a proper Punisher with like machine guns and rocket launchers and Gwenpool.
That'd be ace.
And I think hijinks would ensue.
Yeah.
Nothing but hijinks.
Nothing but hijinks and absolute slaughter.
Yeah.
I feel like Punisher maybe kind of getting a causality loop where Gwenpool keeps coming back and he has to like keep.
But every time she comes back, he gets to blow her up, and I get a little thrill each time. Yeah. Okay. That's my one. What about you guys?
Do that Christopher Hitchens line, which I love. He goes, "It doesn't always work, but it never completely fails."
That's a hitch slap, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't always work, but it never completely fails. Brilliant. I don't know. I've always thought about doing crossover stuff like with small press, but that's like it's better part of like a third of the year or half a year's work for me. So it's not something you can do as a bit of fun. Like, oh, we have a crossover here. So fuck me, this is 6 months worth of work. So I think the most you do is I could do a pin-up of two characters fighting.
Fucking what?
Yeah, you can do that depending on the comic.
Yeah, I think you can.
Whatever sort of comics you want to make.
Free love.
Yeah.
We did when I was initially running Vanguard on Drunk Duck. There was like a thing where people would say there's 5 creators who have got different superhero characters. They'd put them in a comic and then they'd draw like 3 pages each, so you'd get like a quick turnover and you get stories told, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
So you can always
Vincenzo, who would you?
Vince.
I've never when it comes to a lot of crossovers, especially like you mentioned like the ones like Batman, Judge Dredd and stuff like that. I've never really been a fan of it. I remember like certainly Superman and Aliens. I could not stand the very idea of that. And
seems
there's very few that work for me. I liked Alien I like Alien Nation and Planet of the Apes. That was one of my
That
favorites.
work. RoboCop Terminator. That's a gem.
Yeah, yeah. Aliens and Predator. That's a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's tougher when you get to like some of like a character like a Batman or I remember back in the day quite liking that. I mean, I haven't read it since, but remember the Batman Spawn one that was big deal.
Yeah,
yeah. They've just done that, haven't they? They've done another one recently.
Yeah,
I like the fact that they hated each other.
Yeah,
that's what I remember about that. They didn't like each other at all.
Batman fucking crosses over with everyone, doesn't he?
I'm trying to think. There's not many people Batman hasn't fucking crossed over with.
Sort of like, oh.
He's done a few Dreads. I never liked the Dread ones. It didn't stick with me.
Yeah, I think
they're quite beloved.
I think Dread's one of the most difficult ones to do. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, narratively, it just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, as soon as Batman walks into the room, Dread would machine gun him.
Yeah. I mean, he's killed loads of like costume vigilantes in 2000 AD.
Martial Law and Pinhead. There you go. There's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Martial Law Mask. That they did that, didn't they? God, Martial Law crossed over a few of them.
I've also just never got a really. I mean, there's the excitement of seeing them next to each other, but Marvel and DC characters crossing over just never really gelled with me.
I got emotionally upset when Superman beat Thor. And Hawkeye goes, nobody beats Thor, what's going on? And I thought, oh no, ruined it a bit now.
Yeah. I did remember reading that, and Storm beat Captain Marvel. I was like, what? It was done by Reader or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because wasn't it Captain America versus Batman? Wasn't it something like that? Was it Captain America?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I can't remember the outcome of that.
I've heard Levitz talk about that because Captain America wins that, doesn't he? Because he says the world's greatest soldier versus the world's greatest detective. Isn't Captain America win? I've got a feeling.
I can't remember.
I'll have to look again.
Let's go to Google.
I think Batman wins it. If I remember correctly, they have a fight and they disappear off panel, and one of them stands.
Are they in the sewers or something?
I can't remember where it is now.
Can't remember now. As I've only read that once. I mean, it's a beautiful book, but
Yeah. Who drew that one? Was that Perez that did that?
Yeah, it's Perez. Yeah, it was the second time he drew it, wasn't it? Because they tried it the first time, didn't they?
Yeah. I don't know who would be a good crossover. For. Oh, this is interesting. Come back to me in a second. I'm just thinking.
Jason Statham versus Vinnie Jones. I'd read that comic.
But that'd work.
Yeah.
Right, I've got an article here. I'm just scanning down. Fan voting.
I'm just thinking of mad ones now. I'm just thinking of like absolute mad ones, like
Batman was ultimately named the winner of the fight, but it's not like he beat Captain America in submission. The two's tussle was a back and forth affair that appeared to be completely deadlocked until Water knocked Steve off balance, allowing Batman to win the win.
Right. Okay. They have to do that, don't they? They have to do that, though, don't they? And then that way, no one feels bad about it. There's no fucking argument. Yeah, it's a bit fucking soft cock, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's basically whoever is writing them and wants them to win. So it's.
I tell you what. How about this? Right. Puppet Master series.
Yeah.
Versus Mr. Potato Head. Come on.
Can we have lots of sex in it?
Oh, yeah. Not potato-based shenanigans. Although I'm not going to kink shame. Come on, it's got to work. Just mix it up like that. Any full moon universe, just absolutely fucking...
Eel woman.
Oh, don't never say those words again.
There's Doll Man versus anyone. That works.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another one. What's the next question? Come on.
Next one by our friend Tom Curry.
Is that how's the reading challenge going?
Yeah, how's the reading challenge going so far?
Mine's going badly.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I was going to read 10 modern Star Wars comics, wasn't I?
Yes.
I've read 2, and they were both awful.
Hate them. Yeah.
Yeah, they read the Darth Vader one, and it wasn't really about Darth Vader. It was about this sort of team of female. I think they were like exiles or mercenaries or something, and Darth Vader sort of appears.
That's what I really fucking hate about modern comics at the moment. Don't put someone's fucking title on it, someone's name on it if it's not about them. I know that's
the worst. You didn't see my massive rant about Moon Knight versus Murder World. So there's these sort of one shots going around Marvel at the moment, which is these murder world with a different character in each one, and Moon Knight's on the cover, main character on the cover. He's the title of the book, but the story is all about this sort of team of people who are trying to escape murder world, who aren't established characters or anything. They're just people from this series, and then a Moon Knight robot appears on page 12 and is gone by page 18, and that's the Moon Knight comic. What?
Oh,
so basically, like someone who doesn't know how to fucking write Moon Knight, knows nothing about the characters. Like, I would just do this.
It's not even if he's a robot in secret. They discover on the last page he's a robot. No, he's just a robot from page one.
I tell you what's maddening about this is there's so many talented people out there that can write these comics.
I know that's the real fucking.
And
there's so many older professionals who would love to write a Moon Knight comic.
Yeah, how do the editors let all this stuff through? How does someone look at that and go, "Hold on, where's Moon Knight in this?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Right. So anyway, so the reading challenge. What were you reading, Vince? Have you started on yours?
I'm a Strontium Dog. I've started on my because it was between. Was it
one of those black and white collections?
Yeah, black and white collections. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm on a real sort of like 80s weekly comic sort of kick at the moment.
God, yeah.
So my brain's in that sort of. The great thing about these collections is it's just a massive collection of that kind of stuff, isn't it? Like 4 to 6 pages per issue, and it's sort of. I mean, I have only just scratched the surface and only just the very start of it. But
I do like those collections. They're a bit like Rebellion are doing those essential or showcase collections.
And these are thick phone book sort of books. Yeah,
but they need to be bigger. They've shrunk the pages too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, it would benefit from having
the old Titan size trades, which were the normal size pages. I think they were quite good.
Yeah. Which does affect sometimes like the way it shrinks down and how you can read some bits. Do you know what I mean? Like the actual lettering, I think it does affect that.
It does. Yeah, and it's some bits a little bit muddy as well.
Yeah. But so it's beautiful. I mean, I haven't even really thought about the year that this stuff sort of came out. What was the year of the first Strontium Dog strip?
It was in it was in Tornado first, wasn't it? So it wasn't in 2000 AD. He wasn't there. Yeah. That wasn't it originally. Yeah. I'm not sure actually. I'd have to look back. I'm going to say 79, 80 or something. I'm guessing, or maybe before that actually.
I'm working my way through it. It's about a quarter, and like especially with like the initial, like when a lot of these sort of books and stuff at the time, a lot of it is just setting up things and setting up worlds, and lots of bounty hunter, chasing person, kill person, onto the next adventure, that kind of thing. But I love all that kind of stuff. It's like great, and then slowly you can develop a bit more.
Strontium Dog fact update: Star-Lord won in 1978.
Oh, Star-Lord, of course it was.
1978 was it?
Yeah, 78. Wow. And then it was hatch, match, and dispatched into 2000 AD, and Strontium Dog was always one of the ones that was saved. Yeah.
I did see Pat Mills' quote tweet, "Bleeding cool," saying I made 2000 AD.
Yeah. They missed. They took an old rumor and ran with it rather than actually fucking finding out.
There's only some way they could have asked Pat.
Yeah, if there's only some way of contacting him, they'd have been all right.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Mine's going all right. I want to trade of that. Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan, what was yours?
Walking Dead. I've not read.
You're well ahead on yours, aren't you?
Yeah, I've not read past the prison yet. I was blasting for it and then stopped.
Have you got to that moment in the prison?
No, not yet.
You know the one, Vince, do you?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a couple of moments in the prison, but I know that.
You know the one I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll know
a seismic story shift.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Nice. Look forward to it.
Everyone went, I can't believe he did it, sort of thing. But I actually think it worked. If you're going to be, if it's going to be a brutal environment, it's got to be brutal.
There's lots at the moment, and the thing is, that comic book. I know the sort of media juggernaut it became and everything, but the book itself. And because it was so huge, it sort of went above everyone sort of like talking about it. It went above the conversation about comics, didn't it? Because it was just kind of there. Yeah. But that's just that block of work is fucking brilliant comics. Even I didn't read it all the way to the end, but I will give it its fucking props.
Neither. Yeah.
It was so good at what it did, and I think because of the TV series, or people going, because of this, that, and the other. But seriously, go back to the books because they're so fucking well made. I mean, Dan, you're experiencing this now, aren't you? As it's sort of
Yeah, I
real
mean,
page turners, aren't they?
yeah, it's strange seeing characters because I've seen quite a lot of the TV series and I've stopped because it got shit. But like, man, this character lasts ages in the TV series. Like, oh, they're dead here.
Yeah.
Like they didn't. Like there's a couple on Herschel's farm. Some of his daughters, they don't make it off the fucking farm. They're dead, whereas they're still knocking about in the TV series.
There's characters in the TV series that are never in the comics as well.
Yeah.
Well, Daryl's not in the book at all, is he?
Yeah.
I can't. Have they done a Daryl series though? I don't know why they haven't. If they haven't,
What TV series or comic
series?
I don't think they've done a comic series.
I can't think. I don't know enough about that.
No, I don't actually think that Robert Kirk correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. I don't think Robert Kirkman's done a Walking Dead comic adaptation of the series, has he? I think the comics for him, the comics have always been the comics.
Yeah. We've got Clementine, which is Tilly Walden's adaptation of a character from the video game. I think.
Yeah. But the video game itself exists in the comic book world, if I'm correct, Dan, isn't it? I think it's just happening in a separate place.
Yeah, it's not set. It's set like the whole style of it is the fact that it's in the comic book world.
Yeah,
I think she's done another one, hasn't she, Tilly? I think there's another one due to come out. I think.
And those I mean, I played the first couple of games. They're fucking brilliant games. Those ones, very much in the Walking Dead vibe as well.
Okay, cool. Then the next one we've got is how many comics did we receive as part of the what we call the review tsunami? And we're not sure. We haven't quite. We've had a quick count up. We reckon it's about 50 review applications.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with a lot of them is a lot of them multiple comics. So I'm going to say it's got to be 20 more than that. So there's sizable. So between 50 and 70, I'd say.
Yeah.
There's one where they put a series in and it would be 5 books.
Yeah.
So they can read my title.
If you sent something, thank you very, very much for sending it in. And we are going to work through this stuff and we're going to get through it. But also, just bear in mind, we're not getting paid for this. We're not professional reviewers or anything like this. There are other books we're also reading and stuff. So
we've still got to do the ones that we would be doing anyway before we had this lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But thank you.
I got
so
2
much.
this week.
Yeah, I've got a review
crackers coming through. Yeah.
I think if you're not afraid of getting some critical feedback on your work and you're happy for other people to hear it, do submit it. And
we're not here to rip you to shreds either.
No, go back and listen to the ones we've done previously where we've been. Everything's a mixed bag in this world. It's not. We're not like a YouTube channel that rips your ass out, and we're not some like fucking snowflakes who can't say anything horrible about your comic because we don't want to hurt your feelings. It's a bit of both. We're just reasonable people. So go back and have a listen to some of the previous ones.
Yeah, when we get a bit kind of like start digging down the mountain, we make do another push for it. But at the moment, we've got fucking loads. So.
Yeah. You can still send us stuff, but we won't necessarily get to it. I mean, I think it's sort of luck of the draw sometimes. One dude messaged just a couple of weeks ago and said, very politely, said, how long does it take you to get to them? And I messaged him back saying, we have got a lot, dude. So we're working through them as quickly as we can. I can't really give you a date or a time or anything like that. And he said, no, I just thought I'd ask. Thanks for taking the time. And then it just so happened that was the one that Vince put his hat in and pulled out that week. So that was pure coincidence, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? But we are trying our best.
There is times that when I've seen stuff come in, it's like, that is fucking lovely. It's like this, that goes fast tracked.
yeah. Some of them have been sort of slotted back a couple of weeks because I'm like, I ain't got the energy today for this. Yeah. But
should we call it a review Nami?
Yes, I like that review. I'm writing that down. Yeah. Review Nami.
I love a play on words, me.
Do, don't you?
But yes, I think as always, we've just sort of gotten carried away with putting the world to rights, having some thoughtful conversation about comics, and obviously everything we've spoken about, as we always do on this show, is just our opinions. Feel free to keep conversations going, whether it be on social media or on the Slack or whatever. If you want to join the Slack community, then just let us know and we'll add you to it. But yeah, I think so much has happened already, and Lord knows what's going to happen in the second half of this year. But I tell you what, I cannot wait to discover the next book that I currently, as I speak, this moment, I have no idea what it looks like, what it reads like. I don't know who the creators are. It's the joy of discovering a brand new indie comic that just gets me pumped.
I keep a list of comics, because I keep a list of everything I read, and I grade them 1 to 10 on just purely on enjoyment.
Yeah.
How much I enjoy them, and I've already got 11 on that list of 10 out of 10s.
Yeah, there's a different different sort of excitement in there, gents. Like to like The Hunger in the Dusk. That was a title that I said last week that's been on my. As soon as I discovered that it was coming out, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
No, but I know of the creators. I'm aware of I can see artwork. I know what it is. You know, there's that excitement. But there's nothing quite like just being hit out of nowhere with a creator that you don't know, and you just think, "What the fuck is this? Where can I get more?" I love that, and that's one of the joys of this show. I think when we discover new voices as well. So
yeah, I've got a great book from Europe Comics for next week, by the way.
Fantastic!
I think has got me like that. I genuinely think maybe one of those books. I'll talk about it next week. Yeah, I'll share it with you in the week.
I need to dip back into Europe Comics again. I haven't checked them out for a while.
So when is there?
Yeah, there's too many comics. There's too many comics. So, with that in mind, do we have any shout-outs this week?
Yeah, I've just got a couple this week. It's not like a load that I had last week. I think it's because we're recording a bit early.
Yeah.
Massive fucking congratulations. I think we'll all get together and congratulate this person. So massive congratulations to Jane McDonald, who has been chosen to present the Soap Awards.
Oh God, yeah.
After Philip Schofield has sadly had to step away from it.
I don't think that. Fucking hell!
I don't know what's happened there.
I know what's happened.
Brilliant.
I'll have a look.
Really, yeah. It's somebody's unfortunate incident.
Fucking hell! No.
What? Anyway,
God.
Thanks to everyone who pledged the Dirty Basement at the Kickstarter. We're off to print already.
Hey,
so, we're going to print. So we got. I think is it next weekend. We do like a get together in my office. Me and Falpy, we have a couple of beers and we bag and board everything. So we'll be doing that then. As I mentioned earlier, I got to because it's currently Thursday night. I'm currently in Glasgow in a hotel room for a convention on Saturday. I'm meeting up with Canon tomorrow. So I thought, all right, I'm going to pop into Forbidden Planet because that's where Pete Watson works. So sort of pop in and say hello to him, buy a couple of things. And as I walked in, he's there from David Steele from the Earth 2 podcast, which I love. And I had literally been listening to about 20 minutes beforehand. And I walked in and I went, fucking hell, David. And we had what a nice guy. And I tell you, you want to listen to a great podcast because they do the voices, they act out the story. It's brilliant. Earth 2 podcast is really good. That you'll work out the logic of how they're working their way through it when you listen to it. But they also might have some surprise guests coming up, so watch out for that episode as well. Yeah, Dan, you know who it is.
I do know. A little bit of theatrics.
Nice acting. Yeah, good. They're my ones.
Nice. Dan, you got any?
I've got a couple. Stone Cop on Kickstarter. Okay.
Yeah.
A rock solid one-shot comic about a stone lawman defending his city from marauding mountain trolls.
Has Nick made little models of it, and he keeps like dangling it in the bar? Stuff like that,
yeah. Follow Nick Bryan on social media, by the way, because he does great. He's a great writer. But
No Escape from Vida Futura by Sarah L. Miles. Heaven is a prison with psychotic angels as guards. Isabella is dead, but she has a plan for that. A sci-fi afterlife thriller. That's got, I don't know what the launch date on that, but it's 136 followers ready for that one to launch. I feel like next time I do a Kickstarter, I'm going to fucking have the launch going for fucking ages. Because let's get loads of people on. And then the other, Lawless Comic Con 2024. I get the ball rolling there.
Jesus, you started already.
Probably in May, the Doubletree Hilton Hotel. So keep an eye out for that.
People fucking rip into you for that. Is there a convention coming up, Dan? Yeah, get that on the Slack. Yeah.
Well, eat that.
Yeah, have it.
My one, I think this, as we announce now, I think it might be the last day to pledge, but certainly the Wicker Pasty, which is a full-colour Cornish folk horror fantasia.
Oh, yeah.
From Tristan Mitchell, who's a great artist. And this one, as I'm speaking now, it's a little shy of its goal. So just give it a nudge. Give it a final nudge. See where it is and give it a nudge, because it is great stuff, and he's a brilliant illustrator. And he loves a bit of folklore, folk sort of horror and stuff like that. So it's great stuff.
I used to have a Cornish pasty a week, and then this cafe opposite work shut down. So Cornish pasty consumption is now at 0, which is a net loss for us and everyone, really.
Wow. Do you know Greggs are like the biggest chain in the UK?
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow.
They've got their own clothing brand. When I say chain, I mean like sort of like food and beverage sort of things.
Yeah.
I'll tell you afterwards a good Greg story.
That's been an absolute gangster to walk down the road with fucking. They did Greg's Crocs, didn't they?
Yeah. I tell you, they don't get me started on Crocs, because
I like a pair of Crocs. I
don't want to get fucked.
Did he hear the story? Was it Tom Curry told us the story about Crocs?
No.
You know that film Idiocracy?
Yeah.
The costume department had to find like some shoes that they thought would be stupid, that look stupid and would wear in the future. They look slightly futuristic. So they bought loads and loads of fucking shoes for all the people to wear in that film. They're Crocs before they got big, when they just started out.
They're cool though, Crocs. I wear mine to walk the dog.
Just shut up.
I don't. Yeah. Shut up.
Really hard wearing as well.
You're hard wearing.
What I do is I roll my trouser legs up so you can see my ankles, and I walk about in Crocs.
Do you
I look like I look like the Selwyn Frogget, the village idiot. Little shout out to all those fucking people who watched TV in the late '60s. Selwyn Frogget. There you go.
Oh dear. But people that are still around in this generation, they may want to read some comics.
Nice.
So, should we recommend some comics to some lovely people?
So I'll give you a little shout out on NIA this weekend. I did a segue and I went, Vince would be proud of me.
I know. I know. My heart skipped a beat when I got name dropped. You know why? Because I'm all ego all the time.
Say my name.
Just sending some inappropriate images to you guys on.
I've just seen it flashed up.
Well,
whenever I get a WhatsApp from Dan, it's just a picture. I think, oh fuck me, what is this now?
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Dan, right? Your hard drive must be a disaster.
What the fuck is that?
I don't. Just let's not. Right, we got to get on with the show.
Stress it.
We just got to get on
Not
with the
eating
show.
at McDonald's tonight.
I mean, I like to think that part of the beauty of this show is sometimes when we're talking about stuff like this, the mystery that people have to try and figure out of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of an audio medium. That you can't
send
see
me
the things that we're seeing. No, Dan, stop sending us this film.
There's lots of things I sending. I clicked on this.
There's another
tweet
one.
He's done
another one.
He's done another one.
It's all the responses to that tweet. All these thirsty dudes putting pictures up. So it's not. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a thirsty dude, but
it's hot weather, isn't it? You got to hydrate. Yeah. Stay hydrated.
Yeah. Right. So I've not got a recommend. I've got a review.
I've got two to do. I've got 2 reviews.
Okay.
Shall I start with
Tony,
one?
you start us off.
No, I'm going to ask your advice about this one in a minute, guys. I'm going to just going to gauge the temperature in the room about this. So just have a listen to what I'm going to tell you, and then we can have a discussion. So this is Kancir's Kancir, Kancir, issue 1, published by Rogue Comics in 2019, created to benefit the Irish Cancer Society. Good start.
Okay. Yeah.
Writer Derek O'Leary at Derek O'Leary on Twitter. Art and letters by Kevin Keane at Kevin King24 on Twitter. Colors by Christian Sabare. Editor Gillian Dempsey, who on Twitter, you'll like this, Vince, is Miss Meowenstein.
Nice.
That's good, isn't it?
So any time someone names their cat David Meowie, I immediately think you're a fucking legend.
You're a fucking gangster. Yeah. Then I want to see your hard drive. Right. So the book opens. It's a science fiction story, so it opens on a young man, and he's walking into this sort of town that looks like your classic. Canon movies, Full Moon Studios, apocalyptic town. Looks a bit like a Western town, but it's in the the world's gone to shit. And the town is called Can, but it's Kan, but it looks like the rest of the word has sort of just disappeared a bit, and it looks like it's the title of the book. As he walks in town, a man jumps on a horse, which is a rocket propelled horse that takes off into the sky, and the kid goes into this bar. And then these sort of dinosaur riding samurais arrive. So they look like samurai robot kind of things. And they're to demand and collect their money from the owner. It's almost like a local government, or local criminals who go and collect money off him, and they're called chemos with a K. And it doesn't go well, and the owner is beheaded, and the kid gets handed the bar and told he's now on collection duties. People start arriving in the bar, and the kid tries to explain to them. He says, "None of us are paying that son of a bitch." So the kid kind of goes hardcore and says, "Look, we're not going to pay." And then we wake up, and the scene shifts, and the kid is in a ward in a hospital, where he's being treated for cancer with chemotherapy, and everyone from his dream is there. The personalities are the same, but they're clearly just he's pushed them into his dream world, is what you kind of think, So there's the sort of the girl who's there and the quiet kid, and at one point after a bit of chatting and getting to know everyone, the kid he puts his hat on that kind of comes from nowhere, and he stands on the top of his table or his bed, and he says, "I'm bringing the fight to chemo and anyone who wants to join me." And then we're back in the abandoned town. I won't ruin the ending, because to be fair, I'm not actually sure what happens. But there's a kid who's killed. He doesn't make it to the town as part of it, and I think he's died because somebody says there's 4 of them standing there, and somebody says, "Where's this other character?" And they sort of all look, "Where's Jake?" His name is. And they all sort of look off to the side to nothing where he would have been standing. And I think the implication is that Kancir has got him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Solid, small press artwork. Characters are all recognisable, albeit very caricatured, which is fine. There's not much done in the way of backgrounds, which I've got not a massive problem with the whole background thing. I know people say, "Oh, they don't draw backgrounds, do they?" I think sometimes if you're doing a fight scene, it's not a necessity.
No.
And if you want to draw the eye completely, I'm okay with that. It happens. It happens a lot. Even Jack did that, didn't he? He uses silhouettes in different ways to different values on the page. There's a silhouette on the final page, which I think is part of the confusion about what's happening at the end, because this is the first issue of a series. I'm not sure, to be honest, when issue 2 is coming out, because I think this came out in 2019. So, which I only realised after I sort of read through it and looked back in order to write some notes on it, because they sent it through to us. I thought it was more necessarily a more recent book. I'm going to say some of the dialogue jumped out a bit at me. I've just read a book, right? Like this is a sort of offshoot. I've just read a book called The War Against Cliche, which is I was substantially fucking knocked back by the death of Martin Amis. So I went back and read some of his old books, and there's a collection of short stories from 71 to the 2000s called The War Against Cliche, and he's very open, and Joyce follows a similar pattern, James Joyce, in relation to don't use a cliche in a sentence. It takes the reader out of it, Right, so not everything has to be cutting edge. Think of something else to say. All these things that lazy writing in a way. And there's quite a few in this one, which I think would get Martin Amis irked. There's one point where the girl says to the boys, she says, "This is Cancer Town, population you." And I thought, and I did groan a little bit at that one.
Mate, that's bad.
Yeah, at the end of a conversation, someone says, "Meeting adjourned." One of the girls, so this isn't a dialogue. Well, it's a little bit. This isn't a dialogue cliche, but what the girl turns up on a hoverboard, and she says that the hoverboard goes up to 88 miles per hour, and I'm like, no, why? Firstly, I think
it's worth sort of breaking the illusion of the world you're trying to make by dropping in pop culture references,
and I think that's what it's doing. I think the overuse of cliches, which should possibly be there in a first draft, but can for a tonal way, but knowing that you're going to go back and rewrite it is fine. But I think of different ways to say things, and different ways to say things that apply to a situation you're in. Okay, there's a couple of narrative jumps I didn't quite understand. So the way that they get back into the dream, I didn't really understand. There's a couple of things going on here. The ending, I had some issues. I wasn't really totally sure. It looks like a certain person dies in it, but I'm not sure whether that is real if it happens,
Okay.
or so the big elephant in the room. Okay, so I've described this to you guys. Do you think it's too on the nose? I mean, my father had cancer, my son has had cancer. Is it too on the nose for you?
The way
things can be done in different ways, and I think it can be done right.
Yeah, they can be, and certainly some things benefit from being on the nose, don't they?
Yeah, of course.
As you were describing it,
it's a very personal opinion. I mean, we
agreed. We
have different opinions about this.
I mean, for me, it sounds a little too on the nose for me, but that's not to say anything about this person's experiences or struggle or anything like that. I was immediately reminded of Periwinkle by Susie Gander when you were talking about this, which is a similar kind of vibe. It is similar.
Tale, oh man, that killed me. Periwinkle.
Yeah,
killed me. Yeah,
but Susie doesn't. It deals with it in a different way, doesn't she? She develops the story in a different way, and that works better for me. I haven't read this book, so I can't speak to it. But
I know it's difficult.
From what you're describing, it sounds.
That's why I wanted to lay the story out for you, just to decide.
It sounds a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. That's how I feel about it, mate.
Yeah. But I guess sometimes when writing these sort of things, it's a
Bear in mind, we haven't seen issue 2.
No.
So that might making it a longer story, that might help. I don't think issue 2's out yet, so I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah. Okay.
Dan?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'm kind of obviously I'm getting this through the lens of yourself, and I mean, who hasn't been affected by a relative or a loved one kind of been afflicted with sort of cancer? It's a very tricky one. I feel like if you're treading down this path, you're going to more than likely upset someone potentially. You got to be a bit careful what you're doing.
In its defense, it does have, and this is unlike a lot of comics that claim to be about, especially at the moment, mental health. This comic does have a page that shows how you can contact.
That's fair play then.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I give him big props for
that's
that.
a big tip for me.
Yeah, big because if you're willing to discuss these things and then you've got stuff like that in it where we can guide people to resources to help them out. Yeah, it's got to be done really.
Yeah, I think that's a big tick. Money they are finance. I think it's done in not finance, but it's done in company with them. I just have I don't know, I think this is one of those things that different folks with different strokes in it. Different people would see this in different ways.
But the fact that the way you're reacting this way is saying something. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of
if it's getting me this way, isn't that a good thing?
Potentially, it depends on what they're trying to get out of you.
Yeah,
what they're trying to elicit by. Is this the reaction they wanted? I don't know.
Yeah, Scott's talking about it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, this is an Irish group. So if you are in the UK, go to Cancer Research UK and donate some money to it. I think it would be my point here as well. Or in the US or in Ireland or wherever you're going to be, go and donate to it if you think it's worthy. And we are talking about it, so that can't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's a funny one, guys. I just, I was quite impacted by it, especially with my son a few years ago.
Yes.
So it's, I just did get a bit of an eye roll out of me when I said, right, the Warriors, they're fighting are called chemos. It's in a town called Kancir. Then that line from the female, I'm like, come on.
Because like I say, if you do have sort of personal experiences with these kind of things, they do evoke. It's visceral sometimes. It's the emotions and the reactions. I mean, I certainly, like everyone here, have had family and experiences with cancer.
Man, it kills half of us, doesn't it? They're all people. Half of us will get it. That's the thing. And
one of the things that really surprised me, and sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? The reactions you have when you have these, I mean, there's many things that I don't like about it, but the latest Thor film.
That's another one actually.
That one,
good comparison.
That invoked a visceral reaction in me that made me think, "Fuck this film."
Yeah, I know.
So I've not seen that. Yeah, I only heard your vitriol about Vince, and I can tell that I fucking hate it.
I do like things, people. Yeah. So, but that was because when you have a personal experience with something, and your life has been touched in a certain way, stories and media affect you in a different way, don't they? Whereas with that subject, with that particular example, it was just terrible on many other levels as well. But with comics, like you say, just by touching on a certain subject, which is the same. Well, obviously we're speaking about things like cancer here. We spoke about abuse or trauma or PTSD in previous episodes. There's lots of things that can be certainly triggering for people, aren't there?
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. So yeah, I must say I haven't read this yet, Tony. I'd be intrigued to read this just to see.
If this was just a comic that wasn't about cancer, I don't think I would be buying issue 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but because it is, and it's designed to raise awareness and money for cancer research, I will probably promote the issue 2 if they send it to us.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, for God's sake, support those causes, people. You really do. Yeah.
Interesting one. There you go.
Interesting. Yeah.
Look at us. We can have a think about things, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys?
Dan, do you want to do your?
Sure. My one I'm going to be reviewing now is the 51st State by written and drawn by Finn Moxon. I didn't realise I've actually talked about one of Finn's books before.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Hippy. Do you remember that copy? He sent us in before. He's definitely mentioned it on the ACP Slack.
Of course, he's on the Slack, and he caught his Finn. Yeah.
Hello,
Finn.
Yeah.
Synopsis: a washed-up state investigator investigates the death of an American businessman on English soil during a tumultuous time in English politics. I had to look up the 51st State because I knew it had a meaning beyond what is the meaning to the 51st State. And
there's a movie as well, isn't it, with Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah. It's described as the 51st State is a term in American political discourse that refers to areas considered to be candidates for U.S. statehood, joining the 50 United States existing since 1959. And when you read that through, it factors into the comic book because 51st State tells like a noir-tinged detective story set in a future dystopian London. It wouldn't have gone amiss from last week's episode with Richard. But everything's kind of like commercialized, built up. On the bones of the old London, and we sort of follow Detective Jordan as he begins to try and solve the aforementioned murder of the high-ranking US diplomat. And depending on how the investigation goes, it could have dire repercussions between future relations of the UK and the US. From the get-go, Jordan suspects that like there's a lot more going on. He's being told by his superiors, and he sort of tries to set about to get to the bottom of the case and see what the actual story behind the story is. Moving on to sort of some the design art crits. I think your artwork in the pages, Finn, would work with more a difference in line weight throughout. A lot of your pages have got the same line weight, so when you've got characters in the foreground and then characters like this background scenery, you're drawing them the same line weight often, and that can really flatten out. So if you're drawing the figure and then they're looking at a cloud and that's got the same line weight as the figure, it flattens it. If you can somehow try and work out like stuff in the distance has got a thinner line weight, it might help build that sort of illusion.
Well, there's artists certainly that have. The people in the foreground, they've just put like a thick line around it.
Yeah.
So Carlos Esquerra used to put a thick line.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's quite famous for having that sort of almost like a dotted line, isn't it?
Yeah.
So kind of like changing up line weights might be a good way to kind of get a bit of depth and kind of like being able to pick things out on the page a little more. When it's quite heavy all the way through, sometimes you're like, oh, fucking hell, there's a lot of detail here. And one thing you've done really well in this book, there's a lot of detail, and I see you spent a lot of time building up the environments. There's a real sort of, you've taken your time, done a bit of research, sketched these backgrounds, and especially when they go inside interior buildings, and it feels like this actually feels like a building in London, like the decor and everything. I can imagine that being there. Saying that, you've only did it once or twice through the book, and you'd mentioned this, Tony, in yours. Sometimes you don't have to have a background. You can have like a white or black, and if you got like detail, sometimes it's like fucking hell, I need a bit of a break. Imagine an action film that's just the moment you turn it on, it's like action, car chase, explosions. You need moments of quiet to kind of, for there to be noise, there's got to be quiet. So at times they have that kind of rhythm of slow down the artwork a little bit, then you can ramp it up a bit. So
it's
just give the eye a bit of a break.
Like some people just have no backgrounds, and some people can have too many. It's an interesting.
Look at manga, man. Manga does that well. Yeah. Back to manga again.
I mean, look at mentioned it the other week. The Jeff Darrow Hard Boiled. He does that all the time. There's lots.
Sometimes
and lots
it's too much, isn't it? It's like watching a Where's Wally fucking.
But he does drop in like character when they're standing on white, and they're very empty pages, so you do get a contrast. But a lot of the time with Jeff Darrow stuff's like fucking hell. There's so much here. It's just you're reading the story, then you stop to read. Page. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's some lovely pages though. I mean, like one of the ones. I mean, I haven't read this one fully yet, but like look at the artwork. I mean, I like the shades that the blue, the two-tone sort of blue.
Yes. Yeah.
There's one particular page. It's just a simple effect, but it's just next to like a sort of a wire fence. Do you know the page I'm talking about?
Yeah. No.
It's just adding that texture to it. It's just lovely. I think I love that page. That really sort of stands out to me, especially. And I like this, the different shapes and sizes of sequential panels.
Yes.
This is something I've discovered, like especially reading a lot of 80s sort of like the weekly books.
Yeah.
That those artists were mixing up the panels. The diagonal boxes. It's not just the 9-panel grid, isn't it? Which I think some people restrict themselves to a lot of time, don't they? There's playing with a format, which I know is something you do a lot as well, Dan, don't you? You sort of like mess
try to, yeah.
You got to jump out of the panel as well, don't you? Sometimes,
one of the things you mentioned, like it's black and white with blue tints, and occasionally red. So when you see the murdered body, the blood is red, and the detective's tie's red. So I presume there's some kind of there's like a kind of something you're trying to build up here. There's a reason why the guy's tie is red. But there's a couple of pages where his tie's not red, and I'm like, was that on purpose or is that a mistake? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that guy's tie? If that's the only color that someone's wearing that's not black, white, or blue is the red, and it drops out a couple of times. Is it because he's Sankey-sen, or do you know what I mean? There's a kind of an ambiguity there. So maybe just check out that.
With that in mind, Dan, I'd like to see that tie prominent on the cover. Do you know what I mean? That use, because it's so strong within the book, isn't it? That tie and is everything. Whereas the cover just.
I mean, saying denotes he is the main character. They got the red ties. It's kind of the central focus. It's a good little tool for bringing it in. One thing I bring up as well, the lettering throughout the font size. I think you're hand lettering this. If you're going to go for a hand letter, you got to be quite careful with that. I mean, I can recall back to Nick Prolix doing stuff on the Kung Fu book, Tony. That he Kung Fu. He drew up the lines, the guidelines, so you get the cap height and the drop height to get your letters right. And in yours, they kind of. I think you can get away with hand lettering to a degree, but like yours changes.
Hard fucking work, isn't it? It's really
yours changes throughout, and sometimes I'm like, "What's that word?" And I've looked in, I go, "Okay, I've got it there." But just be careful of that. I mean, there's always the option to go digital, but if you do hand lettering well, it's a fucking joy. It's like an extra bonus.
It's such a beautiful thing, hand lettering, isn't it? You look at Nick's stuff, but you look at someone like the artist is fucking Alex Toth. Toth used to write postcards to people, and the font was almost like the way he wrote it was almost like lettering, and it's like amazing.
Love it.
So beautiful.
So quick things about the writing. I won't go into this too much. I really enjoyed reading the story and seeing where it's going to go. I feel like you might want to run past a couple of things, like about crime scene and procedural stuff, with maybe someone who's got a bit of knowledge about it, because there's some stuff where it's like it feels a little woolly. I'm not sure if that changes in the series. So I just looked on your shop and you got up to issue 4. One of the things they point out, like the main detective's at the crime scene, and he's got the dead bodies at the top of this hotel, the prestigious hotel, and his superiors are sent like, you got to find the get to the bottom of this case. And he's like, I've got nothing to work on. And it's like, you've got there's a dead body there, and there's a lot of evidence to kind of work on. Do you know what I mean? Like, just have a think through that. But I tell you, the world building you've got going on is absolutely great. It's that a lot of the characters in this, you can see they're kind of their inhabitants of this world are kind of beaten down, kind of accept it for what it is. The main character Jordan, he's very much kind of the Sam Spade kind of a bit down, but he's got a glimmer of integrity to him, and he actually wants to see like this case solved and resolved, and it's very appealing to see that when there's a good character amongst all this kind of like corruption and shit going on. I've mentioned it before, like got some great variation of angles and shots and the page layouts. You mentioned that, Vince. Yeah. It changes throughout. You've really gone for it there, and the limited palette on the colors. After seeing the way you've done it, I'm not sure if I could see it any other way. I think it really works, and you've done a really good job there.
I'm a big fan of that two-tone sort of colour, man. I've always been, and like also I'm a big fan of like when people just sparingly use red.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it's just so good. It can be so powerful, can't it?
It can be, if you want to kind of make a jump up from black and white to colour. Doing this as an intermediate step. Well, no, it doesn't have to be an intermediate step.
I was looking at Mike Aston's Lava Fists today, which I haven't had a chance to read properly, but he does that. He does black and white, and then he just does the fist in colour.
Wow,
and it's got an interesting effect to it, you know.
Yeah. So Finn's got a couple of places you can get his work, but if you go to finnmoxonart.gumroad.com, I might have to put some of this on the tweet once we've done the show, because there's a few more involved ones. But if you look up Finn, Finn, Moxon, Moxon, do a search on Google, and he's got an Instagram account, and
why not just join the Slack and you can message him on there?
You can interact with him directly, and you can buy all issues of the 51st State on his Gumroad, as well as Hippy, which I've reviewed and spoke about, and Badlands and Abyss, which I've not seen yet, but I will remedy that. So nice work, Finn. Good stuff.
Nice.
And that's me.
My one is not from the review pile, but I wanted to speak about it because a recommendation. I think so. Purely from a very intriguing. I wonder what this is like. And and it was a pleasant experience. Tony's. I don't know why you're saying that, Tony. It's not as bad as you think.
What is he doing?
You'll probably be able to guess this immediately, guys. Both of you, I'd imagine. But here is the synopsis. Simple synopsis. En route back to Earth, the crew of the starship Snark intercepts an alien transmission. Their investigation leads them to a desolate planetoid, a crashed alien spacecraft, and a pyramidic structure of unknown origin. Then the terror begins. What does that sound like to you?
Is that the new Predator comic or something?
No, but you're on the right lines, Dan.
Aliens.
It's Dan's turn.
Yeah, God, I have to go for Aliens.
This is Alien, the original screenplay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
As it says on the blurb, in 1976, 20th Century Fox bought a screenplay from Dan O'Bannon entitled Star Beast. And 3 years later, with Ridley Scott at the helm, Alien was unleashed on unsuspecting filmgoers.
When you hear Dan O'Bannon, do you ever think of Pat O'Banton?
Yeah. He was bubbling hot.
He was bubbling hot. Fucking hell. That's a callback to our first year when we used to go on about him all the time.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Bye. Anyway, right. Google Pat O'Banton. You won't regret it.
Or don't.
Yeah. This is basically the original script by Dan O'Bannon.
I've got you there, haven't I? You were thinking Pat O'Banton.
Yeah. I really had to think about that then. This is been adapted by Cristiano. I'm not saying that second name. I will.
Ronaldo.
I will fuck it up. Seixas. How would you say that?
Ooh. I wouldn't even dare.
No.
And artist Guillaume Balbi. I've probably murdered that as well. They've attempted, as it says here, they've attempted to stay true to the characters, settings, and creatures described in the original screenplay, without replicating the famous designs of Ron Cobb, Mobius, and H.R. Geiger. A new experience, but still terrifying. So I was aware that this came out. This came out in 2020. Do you remember when this was coming out? Was it?
Yeah, I do.
Was it Dark Horse that brought this out? Was it, or was it? It wasn't Marvel. It wasn't Marvel, was it?
Yeah, I can't remember who. I don't.
The publisher says it's Mike Richardson.
Oh, it'd be Dark Horse then, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, Mike Richardson, is that?
I thought he
Isn't that is that Image?
It was Image, or was he in?
Oh, I'm confused. It's too late, and I'm very tired.
Yeah. Oh, it's Dark Horse book.
Dark Horse, yeah, he's that tall dude, isn't he? Yeah.
And this was 5 issues. And this was just a fascinating. We were talking about adaptions and things like that recently, and that's why it came onto my radar. And I got it digitally, and like I bought the individual issues because it was like some stupid sale where they were like 79p or something like that. And I thought, right, let's take a punt on this. Let's see what this is like. Firstly, I gotta say, the artwork is wonderful. It's it immediately does the job of making it feel like this is a different thing. I mean, it is very clean and crisp. It's not what you imagine an Alien book to be. It's certainly more in some would say more of a Marvel style as well. So that cleaner sort of.
Gotcha.
Who was the guy that did? In the X-Men. When they were first like the kids again, came back out of time. Who was there? Who was doing? God, I can't think of it.
He was. Yeah, I know. He did it with the Bendis.
Yeah. But that's sort of a little bit of that style, with modern sensibilities on the ships, and the beats are there. We've all watched the film, or read the adaptions of the books, or we're aware of what happens to the Nostromo. But immediately, because none of these characters are named like that, the names are all completely different.
Right.
It puts you in a different headspace, in a different reading space. It was a little dreamlike reading it, because I was like, okay, this is cool. It almost feels like if you were reading it and didn't know anything about it, you'd just be like, they're just ripping off Alien. This is a complete rip-off of Alien. do you know what I mean? Because the names are different, and it's a modern sensibility, modern colouring, modern sort of styling. You would think it would be a rip-off, but that's why, because it's the original screenplay that makes it so fascinating. There's certainly elements that are different, and the creature design, fair play to them. That is an impossible. Just imagine you're the artist for this book, and like, right, okay, we're doing the original screenplay of Alien. You've got to design the alien. Don't make it look like one.
Oh God!
What would you do?
I don't know. You can't get away from the preconceptions.
Exactly.
I'd
go straight for Alf.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. But this book also is like, there's a chest burster scene. There's this one follows more of there's stories of when the victims were sort of cocooned up as well, and they were sort of, when I hear stories of like with the original cut where they were turning it into eggs, or they were morphing into other things. Do you remember those stories of the original Ridley Scott one?
Right.
That obviously weren't in the final Alien film that we now know.
Because they did a similar thing with 3, didn't they? Didn't they go and do the original?
Yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit of that, yeah. And certainly you have these scenes of people being cocooned up, and towards the end, certain characters who are there going, oh, kill me. It's already, but the creature was also eating people as well. So that they sort of tie that in. It was a fascinating experience, but like, it's pretty wordy. It is pretty wordy because it is like a screenplay as well. And it's very dialogue heavy. But once it starts to kick off, maybe, I don't know, is 5 issues too much for it? I say that, but when it gets to the 5th issue, the 5th issue rattles along at such a pace. Much like the film itself, isn't it? You spend a lot of time with this crew, and then when it all kicks off, they all just go, don't they, in the last 10 minutes or so. When that all happens, it kind of ends quite kind of suddenly. I recommend this because if you know the franchise, you know the story. I think there's value. There's certainly value to be had in this book. I applaud them for trying this, for doing something different like this. As a reader,
it's a bit of a sort of historical document. That's why I like this sort of thing.
Yeah. Because it is taking like modern talent and sensibilities. They haven't half-assed this. This isn't just a money grab. This feels like they're trying to do something different with something we already know. So maybe people just didn't give it enough play. But it also, I enjoyed it. But when it ends, because it still ends with the familiar scene that we know, getting in the cryopod and doing this is this person sort of signing off. They don't even have the name Ripley. The last survivor signing off. It has that, and that's how the book ends. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Alien, but I think most of you have. That left me with I felt weird. There was a real sort of like, this doesn't feel right, because it's
right.
It felt like a cover version.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's but there's so much to be enjoyed about this book, and certainly certain moments that aren't in the film that we know, which add a little more to it, So I would definitely, if you this one passed you by and you like sci-fi horror and just the Alien franchise, there's so many of these tie-in books, and certainly I know Marvel are putting out a new Alien book at the moment, which is far too high price for me to actually try. But this was like, I like stuff like this, a novel take on it, and an interesting.
Okay.
An interesting version of something we already know, and I'll be interested to see what other people thought of this, because it's
sort of thing I'd read. Yeah, definitely.
I think you should definitely check it out just to see what your experience is with it, Tony, because obviously you're well versed with the film, and like
we've all seen them, haven't we? It's a go-to, isn't it? Yeah.
So much so that some dialogue is in our brains, isn't it? It's imprinted in our brains. So to read something like this, where it's an echo of that dialogue in your brain, but it's said in a different voice, it's kind of it's worth checking out. So Alien, the original screenplay, if you can find it digitally, or maybe you might be able to find a collection somewhere. It's really worth checking out. Plus, it's like 112.
That'd be interesting. Yeah,
112 pages as well. So decent. And that's my one. Okay, Tony.
Last one, this is a quick one. Griffin, Galaxies Most Wanted, issue 1, published by Whatnot Publishing. I think this is the first Whatnot we've done, isn't it? I think I'm going to say. I know they had a stall at MCM this year. Script, Ben Kahn. Art and colours, Bruno Hidalgo. Colour assistants, James Perifiel. Lettering, Sal Cipriani. This is quite interesting. I quite enjoyed this. More so in the second read, I'm going to say, which is an unusual one, isn't it? Humanity is the villain in this one, which is a common twist that we quite like reading, don't we? I know we've mentioned it on previous things. Yeah. And they've conquered the known universe. The fascist human ruling empire goes by the name the Sovereign Reach. It's quite cool. There's these characters called these sort of cults in America called the Sovereign People, aren't they? I don't know if it's a little play on that. But one of their most capable officers is a female captain called Lila Griffin. And she went missing about 6 months ago, and now she's back. And she's no longer a supporter of the ruling party. And it drops you straight in, opens on her trial. And she's refusing to play ball. And she's just fucking with them in this trial. This is a lot of this comic's played for comedy. It's an action comedy. It's a science fiction action comedy, I'd put it as. In fact, she accuses them all of being dicks who are just fucking the galaxy, which is quite a good little line. Meanwhile, there's a resistance officer called Talika who's on board the ship, and she is sort of vying and looking at Griffin and thinking, will she be of benefit to the resistance, and is looking to spring her out of her cell. Turns out that Griffin is also extremely angry all the time and more than a little crazy, and possibly too extreme for even the resistance, which is a sort of ragtag resistance. You think Star Wars resistance, but with more sort of different creatures and stuff type thing. So it all turns into a massive fight on this ship, and they all start tearing soldiers apart, and they also rescue a man who is described as the smartest man in the universe, who Griffin makes clear that she is going to do the Beast of Two Backs with him at some point in this comic. And she says, I'm going to do you later. What happens later is you find her in the captain's chair, and he's going down on her. And you think, oh, okay, there you go. And he says, what are you doing? He says, oh, it's captain's chair. It's got the added allure of being here, So they sort of, and I won't spoil the rest of it, but it becomes this sort of soap opera in space with, are they necessarily going to get on with the new resistance? Who's fighting them? Who's chasing them? There's a lot packed into it. I would describe it as anarchic, angry, aggressive, sexual, and R-rated.
Bloody hell.
Which I kind of like that. I kind of like it. There was, talking of my cliche meter, there was a couple of moments. They used it, if it quacks like a duck and walks like, they used that line in there. There's a couple of things I thought, oh, come on, you're better than this. This is a good character. Get on with it. The art's good. I think that Bruno works with Ben quite a lot. I know that if you look at Ben's website, you can see there's a few comics that they've done together, and I think they kind of fit. They seem to sort of be very much in sync with each other. I could certainly see Ben's art turning up on an Oni book, something like that. Maybe the sort of akin to someone like Kyle Starks, who incidentally, Kyle Starks everywhere at the moment. He's writing about 3 books this month, I think. It's over the top, gory action, lots of angry people, quirky. There's a couple of narrative jumps. Now, I wondered about this, so I reached out to Ben for a couple of reasons. First off, that Ben is described as script in the credits, and I thought that was a strange thing. I know what you think, V, but just to say you're doing script, which led me to think, I sort of was thinking about it. I thought, oh, maybe this is a property from somewhere else, because it's got a bit of that about it. I'm like, I don't understand video games and things. So I reached out and said, oh, hi, Ben, I just wondered a couple of things. Straight back to me, thanked me for taking the inquiry. And it isn't. This is an original series, but it was released previously as a digital only on Comixology. So what you've got in the first issue is a number of issues put together. So I'm guessing a couple of the narrative jumps actually are between issues, but you're not aware of that because you're reading it as one long 30-odd page comic. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is acceptable. There's page 39. There's a weird bit where a character keeps changing size, and I've gone back and looked at this a few times, and I'm not sure if that's on purpose and that's one of his abilities, or it's just a weird way of emphasizing who's in charge of a conversation, or it's a slight mistake in the art. It's a small quibble, if anything. So Whatnot Publishing, we've got the first 2 issues. I haven't read the second issue of this, but this is a good start. It's a nice, powerful character. She's sort of quite cool looking. She's got pink hair. She shouts a lot of people. She doesn't like green pudding. Usual sort of thing.
Yeah. Who does like green pudding?
Who the fuck likes green pudding, eh? So have a look at that. Griffin, Galaxies Most Wanted. I can see it's got a bit of a sort of cult hit about it somewhere.
Nice.
But it's okay.
Nice.
That's my second one, guys.
So there you go. There you go. Yet more comics for you to check out, creators for you to support, and just general more comics awesomeness brought to you by 3 people who pretend to know what they're talking about.
Know a bit about comics.
Well, we know a little bit. We like reading them.
Yeah,
and making them, and we hope you do too.
And talking shit about them.
And talking shit, and we hope you have enjoyed us talking shit this week about putting the world to rights, or just hopefully some food for thought. If there's anything, like we said earlier as well, keep the conversation and the discourse going. If there's anything you want us to talk about or to elaborate on the future shows, there's several different ways you can get in touch with us to talk about it. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media @theawesomepod. Like I say, there's the Slack community. Get in touch with us on any of those channels, and we'll sort you out, because there's a wonderful community of people on there.
Yep.
There's lots of different channels. There's ones about crowdfunding. There's creating. There's the conversation about the shows. Keep it going on there, and just general chit chat. And it's full of great people just talking about comics, which is what it's all about. And thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, just subscribe, leave a nice review. Some people ask for 5-star reviews. Just leave us a nice review. Just helps get the word out about the show, pushes up the algorithm and all that nonsense. And
so you didn't want to get on board with the review 5-star thing?
If you give us 5 stars, we'll review your comic. What?
I don't think we need to ask them. I trust them. And actually, we've had some lovely reviews from people in the past, and we truly appreciate it.
We know you are.
Yeah. If you listen to us on any other networks, such as Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're also on the Pod Network. You're well cool, just like Lizzo.
There you go. All you Lizzo fans out there.
Yeah.
Respect. What? Oh God!
I don't even know who she is.
I don't know. No, we don't
She play
know.
a flute or something. She plays the flute, doesn't she?
We don't know anything about modern popular beat combos.
No.
Or the
Vince just listens to dark, was it Viking metal music, don't you? In your headphones.
You're right.
You brought up Clearwater last week. I'd never heard of them.
It's Everclear.
Everclear. See, I never even heard of them either.
Jesus.
I was playing them today in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's amazing what you learn on this show. Hopefully lots about comics. And and speaking of comics, where can people find us online, etc.? Tony.
Neveronanything.com. There you go, easy.
Yeah. Check out the podcast. It's well good.
Thank you, mate.
Dan.
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Is anyone dying on this week's Vanguard, Dan?
2 people died.
Oh, jeez. Do you know what? I was expecting to go
so casually.
I was expecting him to go, no spoilers now.
Had to read to find out who.
Everybody dies.
Yeah,
there's a high death count in this issue.
Oh my God. Love it. Get on it, people. And you can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening to the show. As always, listeners, old and new, we bloody appreciate it. And stick with us in this crazy world of comics that we talk about every week. And we really appreciate you listening. And wherever you are in the world, we hope you're happy, healthy, enjoying the comics you're reading, and more importantly, enjoying the comics you're making as well. Keep doing it, because we want to read it. That comic you're making right now that you haven't told anyone about, tell us about it. We'll have a look.
Don't hold back. Don't worry what people say. Just make it.
Make the comic. Yeah.
And I guess until we come back next week, then I don't know. They should keep reading comics. Yes, they should keep making them.
Tick.
Yes.
Done. Yeah.
Follow the show. Something else. What else should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
See you next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Every time you say goodbye, like you're going to shoot yourself in the face.
Every time you say goodbye, my bum dies a little.
Got to be the counterpoint to my hello at the start.